Hey everybody, Bill Tingle here from 3Strums. I am so excited today. Today is guitar string changing day. There's nothing as nice as playing an acoustic guitar with a new set of strings. And it can be a lot of work if you don't have the right tools in the approach. And today I'm going to step you through how I go about changing my strings. Today might be a little bit longer because I'm going to do more cleanup and care for the guitar just to show you how to do it. And looking forward to sharing this with you. Some people think the time to change the guitar strings is when a string breaks. I like to change the strings whenever the strings start sounding dull, and you'll notice the difference. In fact, and sometimes you can see the wear and tear on the lower wound strings on the guitar. And so once per month is reasonable unless you're playing a lot. But what you'll need is a package of strings, some guitar polish, some linseed oil, and it's not mandatory, but it's good to use occasionally to make sure you take care of the fretboard. Then Q-tips and cotton to help clean up. And then I like to use a special kind of all-in-one tool where it's got the string cutters and the tuning peg winder on it. You can get these online. You don't have to have it, but changing guitar strings and setting up the guitar, it can be a lot of work, and so it's good to have the right tools as you go about doing it. All right, so we're going to do this in 3 steps. The first step is to get the strings off. So I'll step you through that. First, you want to take your tuning peg winder and get in a position where it's comfortable and get the guitar set where you can turn the pegs quickly with the tuning winder. So you go to the first one and wind it so it's loosened up. What you want to do is get the string so it's nice and floppy. You're not going to unwind it all the way. And then you do that with each string. All right, so you got the strings nice and loose and floppy. And what you want it nice and loose so that when we cut them, they don't pop and hurt yourself. So then what we're going to do is take the cutter, and if we go just down below the sound hole, between the sound hole and the bridge, cut, cut, cut. All right, so now we've cut all the strings. All right, the next thing we're going to do is take the bridge pins out and put them in a safe place so we don't lose any. And also we want to be careful when we dispose of the strings because the strings are very sharp, and when you throw them away you want to make sure that you put them away in a way that somebody else isn't going to come along and poke their finger. So to remove the bridge pin, you go underneath each one. If you look at the tool here, it's set up where you can go underneath each one and remove these strings. We want to make sure when we get rid of all the strings that we kind of wind them up carefully so we don't poke ourselves, and we dispose of them in a way that somebody else doesn't poke their finger if they go through the trash. So go through, we'll remove each of these pegs. We want to put the pegs aside so we don't lose them. Most people don't have an extra one, and you don't want to have to wait ordering online for them. Okay, put the bridge pins aside. All right, next we're going to take the strings off the head of the guitar. What you do here is just take one at a time and unwind it. Put it aside. Same for the next one. Put it aside. Next one. Put it aside. All right, so now we got all the strings off the guitar. And what I like to do is take all these strings and kind of wind it in a circle. Pull it through so it catches and stays in sort of a bundle. So that when you toss it and dispose of it, it kind of all stays same and doesn't pop out of the garbage. Sometimes when you throw the strings away, if they're not all bundled like this, you'll have strings bouncing around all over the place in the garbage, and makes it difficult to deal with. And so you can see that it's kind of in a bundle here, and I'll put it together with the other part of the strings, and then I can put that in a little small bag to keep it all together so somebody doesn't get poked. All right, so now we have the strings off the guitar. We're going to move to step 2, which is cleaning. All right, in step 2, we're going to do several things. We're going to treat the neck with linseed oil. You don't have to do this every time, and you can tell if the fretboard starts looking dry that you can apply a little bit of linseed oil to it. We're going to clean the guitar just to make sure all the dust is off and it's nice and clean. You might as well do it while you're changing the strings, because when you have the strings off, it's much easier to clean the guitar. And then we will put the strings on. Now this is actually called fingerboard oil, but I'm pretty certain that the contents are linseed oil. But if you go online to one of the music stores, you can order fingerboard oil, and just to make sure you have the right kind. So what I do is I put a couple of drops on between each fret. Just enough that you don't get too much, but you've got enough to kind of cover the area. And I just go through. Okay, and then I've got that on there. I won't need this anymore. Put this aside. And the next thing I do is I take a Q-tip so I can get right up to the fret. And so I kind of cover the area. Get up to the fret. Same thing. Okay, and then one more time, just kind of rub against each fret with the Q-tip. Make sure you get that dirt out from under there. Okay, and then I'm going to take a cotton pad, and just, you can use an old rag as well. Just kind of get all of the extra oil up, get between the frets. You can see the wood sucking in absorbing the oil. It's like it's drinking it. And then that wood's going to just absorb that oil if there's just a little bit extra. You do want to get it all cleaned up and wiped off. Boy, it looks good. Looks so much better. All right, next step, we're going to clean the body with polish and cleaner. Again, you can buy this online as well, or at your local music store. I definitely recommend supporting your local music stores. All right, and use a soft cloth, something that's not going to scratch it. Clean around the bridge, saddle. Get between the body and the neck, down here. These are the spots just super hard to get when the strings are on the guitar, so you might as well get it now. Okay, and then you do the sides and the back. I won't do that now because that's easy to get to with the strings on. All right, it's looking good. Now we're going to move on to step 3, putting the strings on. Now, what I've bought here is for what I would call buying for beginner guitars. When you play the guitar at first, your fingers can really get sore. And there's a bunch of things we're going to talk about in another video, but there's things you can do to minimize the pain and the soreness on your fingers. One of the things that I think is super helpful when you're first starting out is to get lighter strings. These are, the lightest string is an 11. That's pretty light for an acoustic guitar. When I play electric, I tend to use 9s or 10 gauge. So this is pretty light. But when you're starting out, it's probably a good idea to keep it light because there's going to be less pressure tension on your fingers. It's just be easier to play. It might sound a little thinner, but when you're first playing, I sacrifice learning and making progress learning versus the sound. And so it's a trade-off, but this is what I would recommend. Also, there's a word called action, which is how high above the fretboard the strings lie. The higher off the fretboard the strings are, the harder it is to press down, and that can create soreness too. So if you feel like the strings are high up above the fretboard, I seriously consider taking it to a local guitar shop, having them set it up to bring those strings down. Basically, they adjust the neck and bring those strings down to make it easier to play as well. Because it's worth the money, whatever the cost of setup is, because if you don't enjoy playing and it's hard to play, you're not going to play, and then there's a cost to that when you really want to play. So I highly recommend that. And it's good to take your guitar in and have somebody look at it, unless you know how to do it, occasionally anyway. So anyway, enough of that. I'm going to put the strings on now. All right, so the strings out, you can see there's the 6th string, the E string, the 5th string, the A string, the 4th or D, 3rd G, we've already studied this, so you know that. The 2nd string, the B, and the 1st string is the E. And what we're going to do is we're going to attach them to the bridge first. We're going to do all 6 down here, and then we're going to attach them to the tuning pegs all at the same time. So I'm going to start with the bottom, and you want to make sure you get the right string, because if you set it up and you put the wrong string in the wrong spot, and especially if you wind it around the tuning peg, it's hard to undo it, and you want to get it right the first time. So we're going to do the E string. You make sure, look at the pack, it says E string. And we're going to put that in this hole right here. I'm going to take the tuning peg, and you can see there's a little notch on the bridge pin, not the tuning peg. Sorry about that. So you put the string through the hole, and then you can see on the bridge pin there's a little groove. That groove is where the string would go. So you want to make sure that that groove on the bridge pin is faced towards that string, so that string is sliding up in that groove, and you push it down. And then what you want to do is just pull it forward and give it a little bit of tension, because sometimes these bridge pins will want to pop out. So you kind of bend it over the bridge, bring it down, and then you can just leave it there for now. And now we're going to do the next one. Check this package. 5th string A, and pull it out. Same thing. Grab a bridge pin. You're going to put the string in the hole, and then you're going to put that bridge pin in with that groove facing the string. Same thing. Pull that bridge pin forward, or pull that string forward, give it some pressure, bend it over the bridge, and then we'll go to the next one. All right, so we have all the strings fastened at the bridge. All the bridge pins are in, push down. All the strings are coming over each side. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the lowest string and go to the highest. And there's not necessarily a wrong way to do it. But what I want to show is a way of putting the string through the tuning peg in a way that you create a knot. So as you wind the tuning peg, it creates tension on a knot, and it will help from the guitar going out of tune. A lot of times people, they put the string through, just wind it, and the string will slip for a while. Eventually it'll create enough friction and tension that it won't slip. But I like to just right away lock it in, make sure it doesn't slip. So the way that you do it is you come up through the center of the neck and then you go inside out. So you look for the hole in the tuning peg. I'm looking for it. All right, I see it. I'm putting the string through from the middle to the outside, and I'm bringing it out. And then what I like to do is you want to give a little bit of slack. You don't want to pull it all the way up. What you want to do is give it about 2 to 3 frets of distance. And so what I'm going to do is it's all the way down. I'm going to grab it at the nut right here, and I'm going to slide it back about a fret, 2 frets, a little more than 2 frets. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the string here on the end of the string. I'm going to go towards the top of the neck, towards the top of the head, and I'm going to go, looking down, I'm going to go clockwise. And as I bring that string around the tuning peg, I'm going to go under the string. So it's around clockwise, go under, pull on it, and go over. And you can see like there's a little loop now that is kind of wrapped around that string. So then now what you want to do is put some tension on that, grab your winder, and start winding. And as you wind counterclockwise, that string that's wrapped around it is going to be locked underneath, and it's going to create like a little knot, like a half knot. And so once you get it started, then I like to pull tension on it as I'm doing it, and I just wind it all the way up. Now be careful that you don't wind it too far, because if you wind it, any of the strings, if you wind them too far, you run the risk of breaking them. You want to get it just to the point where there's good tension and it's kind of self-sustaining. Okay, I might have given a little too much slack, but I like to make sure that there's plenty of extra string, and it gets plenty of tension. So it could be that one and a half fret slack might have been enough. So you see that it's not too tight, but it's holding good. And then you go, and we're going to do each one. Now what I like to do, a lot of people wait for a while. I like to just cut it right away. I think part of that is since I've done it so many times, I know that it's going to be okay. And so again, little string, dangerous. I'm going to put it with all the other scrap. And when I'm done, I'm going to put that in a gallon Ziploc bag and throw it in the garbage so it just doesn't mess up somebody when they reach in. All right, and so basically now what we do is repeat. And occasionally I'll press down on these bridge pins, make sure they're in. But I'll go in through again. So I'm going to bring it up to the center. I'm looking for the hole in the tuning peg. I'm going to go from the inside out, coming through the center. I'm coming out. Going to pull it all the way through. I'm going to grab it at the nut and I'm going to slide it back. This time I'm going to probably just go maybe a fret and a half, like right there. And I'm going to go up to the top of the head, clockwise, over. I'm going to go under, pull under, go over, and I can see it's wrapped around that string, and I'm going to pinch down. You could wrap it around a couple times. It's not necessary. And then I'm going to tune it, crank it counterclockwise. I can see it locking down on that string, and I'm just going to go till it's got good tension on it. Nothing like a new set of strings. And then, like I said, I'm gonna pull it up. I'm gonna cut it right there. All right, and then we're gonna do the rest of these. All right, so we have new strings on the guitar. Now we'll tune it up. You can refer to the video on tuning your guitar to see how to tune it up, but I'm going to go ahead and tune it up right now. So when you tune the guitar, you want to tune just a little above because the strings are going to slip and they'll just flatten for a while. So you get them good and stretched out. So you want to tune above the note. So I'm G, I'm going up to A. This is the 5th string of the A string. And I'm going to go D, G, B, and E. And when you put on new strings, it's going to go out of tune. And so what I do is I'm very careful, be very careful. I grab a string right about the 12th fret and I just slightly bend it, almost like if you're bending a note. Just slightly tug on it like you're bending it, and just to give a little tension. And this is to tighten it down here. It's to stretch it a bit and it will speed up the slipping, removing the slipping. And plus, remember, we have that knot down there, so we want to make sure that on that string, that knot is nice and locked down. So I'm going to do it one more time. Be careful. I've broken the string before doing it too hard. It can take a little bit because there are times you bend the string when you're playing. And so now you're going to see it's out of tune. So I'm going to go back through it again. And I found that this could take couple passes. I'm only going to do it this one time for the video. Sounds better, doesn't it?